Hello, how are ya? Well, here's the video that I promised on my last video. I have done this study before, but I'm sure that I have new people and they are not quite aware of how Satan adapted or created his personal political system. Actually, it's a political and a religious system. Talk so much about the beast out of the sea and the beast out of the earth. And I, of course, refer to Revelation 13, where the beast out of the sea and the beast out of the earth is described. But really, Revelation 12 is very, very important to understand, actually, Revelation 13, and they do belong together. I think we always should read things in context and understand 13 and even 17. We have to understand the context. When was this beast created? When was the beast out of the earth created? How does that fit in the whole plan? Because see, people always think, oh, Revelation is about the end. Well, end what? The end after the rapture? No. John said clearly in chapter 1 that what soon will happen. So what we read in Revelation is soon. Now we know this Revelation is written like Daniel in different visions. It's not chronological. So we have to see it that way, that Revelations are different visions. And these visions, again, are not necessarily chronological, but they could overlap. So when we start with chapter 12, we're starting with Jacob, or Israel, who had 12 sons that became the 12 tribes, and one of them produced Messiah. We need to understand that, because this is symbolic, very symbolic, and people will confuse it, because it is symbolic. But we need to understand the history, the biblical history, and how it fits in this biblical history. It says right here, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. Now, woman is always a symbolism of the ecclesia, the assembly of believers. And here is Jacob, an example of this starting of this ecclesia of believers. That's why it's a woman. Jacob was a man. Could be confusing. But Jacob stood for the assembly of all true believers, not necessarily biological Israel, but believing Israel. So that's why it is a woman clothed with the sun and with the moon under her feet. Now many people say that reflects, or that is reflected in the sky as well. Okay? Virgo goes through these cycles, and I think Virgo you will see in the fall. Okay? So you can see that also in the sky. But most of all, it is symbolic for this woman that brought forth the Son. The Son, of course, is Messiah. And this community of is ecclesia, right? community of believers from Jacob, or Israel, brought forth this son. So let's continue to read it. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Please keep that in mind. Keep in mind how this dragon looks. You know who the dragon is later on. We'll know it's Satan, right? But who also is described exactly like that, like the dragon. It's the beast that we will see in chapter 13. So keep that in mind. And its tail swept 1/3 of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Again, stars can also be symbolic for angels. So the dragon swept out of the sky. He caused them to rebel against God, just like he rebelled against God. Okay? And so they were flung on earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. Now, Satan has tried to prevent or even destroy Jesus's bloodline from the beginning. Okay, this is not the first time he attempted that, but we know he did. He was right there waiting for the child. That's why Herod killed all the babies in Bethlehem and the surrounding area. That's how he did it. He tried to kill the baby from the beginning. And he was not successful, was he? It says right here, she gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. Here is rule. Now, if you go to another translation, and I would think it is probably I have the NIV here. Let's put it the New King James, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go to the New King James because I think it does it so much better if I find it really fast. Sometimes I don't find these stupid things real fast. Here, got it. So we're going to go to the New King James because it tells it so much nicer. Oh boy, there we go. The child who was to rule, it says the same thing, rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. I think the original text is more like a herding, okay? Like a shepherd, okay? What do you call that? I don't know what it's called. When a shepherd takes care of the sheep. It's herding, right? And I think that's what's used here. It's not necessarily ruling, but more he is the shepherd that will shepherd the nations with an iron rod, not beating, not ruling, but shepherding. He's the shepherd, and he will shepherd all nations. Okay, with an iron rod. All right. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. So that's what happened. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, that they would feed her 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Who is the woman again? It is believing Israel. It's the ecclesia. It's the assembly of believers. It's really the church. And the first church was what? They were Jews. And those Jews had to flee Judea, because Jesus told them in Matthew 24 that that Jerusalem will be destroyed in the sanctuary, and that they should flee from Judea. And so this is why they went into, they did flee into the wilderness, into the diaspora, into exile. Had to flee into exile, or else they would have been killed. Jesus told them in Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Mark 13 that it's coming and they need to flee when they see the destruction or whoever is coming. And they did that. And then why was she only protected 3.5 years? Well, I know eventually the Jewish church, the ecclesia, the Jewish church, also kind of gave up their identity as Jews and melted with the Gentile Christians, and it became one church. So the Jews eventually did not identify anymore, as Jewish believers in Christ. And so she did not need to be protected anymore. And that's kind of what I think, what happened here. So then it says in verse 7, and war broke out in heaven. When did this war break out? I most likely believe that war broke out even before Jesus went into heaven. Or actually when Jesus died on the cross. Okay? When Jesus died on the cross, that war broke out. Why? Because he defeated Satan. And now it says, war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. Why? Because Jesus defeated Satan. Now Satan can no longer go to God and complain or judge the ecclesia, the believers in Christ. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world, or deceives the whole world. He was cast to earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And it says, then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come, for the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down. They overcame him by his blood, by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. And therefore rejoice, O heaven, and you who dwell on them. And then it continues to say, and woe to the earth, to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. This is what happens. Satan, we know it's the dragon, right? We don't have to guess. Was cast out. There is no more room for him. His palace, as everything was destroyed. They can no longer go back and stand before God in his presence and accuse the brethren. So what did he do? He came on this earth, and he had to establish himself here, build himself a new palace and a place where he lives, right? A new kingdom in its sense. And that's exactly what he did. He took this last beast, the Roman Empire, and we see that later on in chapter 13, and transformed that last beast into a look-alike. It looked just like him. It was a little Satan, a little dragon. Okay? His son. Okay? His son. His look-alike. See that later on. He looks just like the dragon. So he made out of this Roman Empire fell, and out of the ashes, I don't even think it came out of the ashes, I think he just kind of transformed this old beast into a new type of beast called the Holy Roman Empire. And important for this Holy Roman Empire was also the little horn that was sitting on it, because that little horn would now rule the political system. And that's what was very new about this beast. You don't see that on the dragon, the little horn. You don't see the horse sitting on the dragon. You see only the whore sitting in Revelation 17 on the beast. And this whore was very important. That was the religious system, which started long before Rome fell. Matter of fact, the first little horn was Emperor Constantine. He became head of the state, or Pontifex Maximus. I made a video about it if you want to go back, okay? With the Pope on the thumbnail or thumb tag or whatever you call it. Pontifex Maximus. He was the head. He took out Jesus and he put himself as head of the church. He took out the Holy Spirit, and he made himself godlike. Okay? Matter of fact, he thought he was God. He thought he was the Son of God until he died. Never really accepted Jesus. He said he did. Catholic Church does say that, but he never really did. He stayed Son God, the incarnation, the Son, until the end. And so that person continued to be the head of the state until the Roman Empire fell. And then this head of the state, Pontifex Maximus, really took over the political system. And he became really the controller of the Holy Roman Empire. And I hope you understand that history. This is what happened. Okay? This is what history is. So then it says in 13, now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child, which was the Jewish ecclesia, the Jewish church. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, to her place where she is nourished for a time, times and a half, from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, but he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon had swept out of his mouth. Now we see again all symbolic. It's all symbolic. This woman is again the Jewish ecclesia, or the Jewish Messianic Jews, if you want to say. Then the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring. Who are the offspring of the woman? Those are all the believers. whether they are now Jews or Gentiles. See, eventually the Jews and the Gentiles kind of mixed and they became one ecclesia, true ecclesia, okay? One church. And so he went after the offspring, which of course is a mix of Jews and Gentiles believers. And he went to make war with the rest of the offspring who kept the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Those are the believers, the true believers in Jesus. Okay? Now we're going to go to chapter 13. Because now this beast out of the sea is described, which is the Holy Roman Empire. This last beast of Daniel 7, okay, last beast of Daniel 7 is also the beast out of the sea. And it's described the same way, except this beast has, 7 heads? Seven heads, 10 horns. Okay? Now we don't see those heads in Daniel 7. Something new. Why did Daniel not see it? Daniel didn't also see who this little horn is really. John got a better look at who that little horn is on top, and that's what we have described in Revelation 17. That's the whore. Okay? That's the religious system. That is the Pontifex Maximus, who controls now the political system. The European political system, no matter who it was throughout history, until it got a head wound. I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. Okay? See that. Now heads, what could that be a symbolic representation? What would that symbolize? Now people come up with all kinds of things. I think it's time periods. Okay? 7 time periods. And the last 7th head was wounded. One of his head, and I think it was the last one, because the Roman, it could have been the 6th, I don't know. But I think heads are time periods. 7, completion. And one of the heads, maybe it was the 6th head, was wounded. When was this beast wounded? Again, this beast is not the little horn on top. We could think that the horn is part of the beast, right? But John saw it very clearly that there's separate entities or separate beings. There's the beast, and on top of the beast is the whore. They're separate people. Okay? Again, with the horn, we may think, oh, that's part of the beast. But we need to understand that's not the truth. The horn that's on top is the whore, the religious system. It's the Pontifex Maximus. That was not wounded. What was wounded was the beast, the political system. So now let's look through history. When was the beast, the political system, the Holy Roman Empire, when was it wounded? When did Europe stop being Holy Roman Empire? That was first after the the First World War. Okay, all the emperors who claimed to be Holy Roman emperors, right, were put away. Like the Austrian, the German, they were Holy Roman emperors, or they were emperors of the Holy Roman Empire. They all took turns. They were put away, okay? Either killed or they had to go into exile. the Roman, the German emperor, last emperor, had to go in exile. The Tsar was killed. Okay, that's the Holy Roman Empire that then fell. Hitler came in and he thought he could reestablish this Holy Roman Empire. Matter of fact, he even came in and thought he's going to establish a 1,000-year reign. Okay? Now, if you don't know all this stuff, then you probably should be learning a little bit about history. But Hitler was the last one who tried to revive this Holy Roman Empire. And maybe that's why he went again for Europe. So did Napoleon. They all went after this Holy Roman Empire because this vision of uniting Europe like Charlemagne did. Okay, if you know about Charlemagne in about 1000. Charlemagne did it for the Pope, for the man of sin, for the whore. And so, really, if you look into it, so at first did Hitler. But something went wrong. So here we have the beast out of the sea. Okay, look at that. Read it. The dragon gave him the power, his throne, and great authority. That's where he got his power from the dragon. That's why it is a look-alike. And that's why this beast has to do as the dragon says. So one of his heads, of course, mortally wounded, and the world marveled and followed the beast. Now people, so they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast saying, who is like the beast, who is able to make war with him? If you look at the history of Europe, yes, the Pope made people believe that they have to follow the authorities. Or else, this is given by God that you have to follow the authorities, the kings, right? And the emperors. That came from the Pope. And the Pope also, said then, well, the emperors had to bow to the Pope, or else they would have not been emperor or king. So it's the hierarchy. And they all bow down, of course, to the dragon, who gave them all the power. So also read chapter 17. Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with the beast? Nobody wanted to make war with the beast. The people mindlessly followed, still do follow the beast, mindlessly. Because they were trained to do that. You need to understand, the system, even during the Kaiser, German Kaiser, it was a military system. Even, during the Emperor of Austria, it was a military system. And you better listen to the hierarchy, of course, of power. And if you didn't, you were not a good citizen, and you were not a good, person. And you know what? You didn't go to heaven. If you didn't do what, of course, the Pope said, or what Pope said, what God said. So they had these people under absolute control. And that did not change until the United States was founded. The United States was founded, and, for the people to get away from this system, authoritarian system, tyrannical system. And so when we read then the next beast, that is exactly now, then at first, was the United States in the beginning, and it looked, of course, like a lamb at first. It was innocent. They had good things in mind for people, freedom, religious freedom, a way out of this tyrannical system. However, what happened? First it was like a lamb, but then it spoke like a dragon, and it received authority from the first beast. The same authority that came from the dragon. Okay? So purposely, yes, the United States started innocent, but from the beginning, again, the dragon, with the help of the man of sin, infiltrated in the United States and brought it down, brought this republic down, so it would be under, again, the control of Babylon the Great. You can't see that here. You cannot see that also in verse 17. But we see that this beast right here out of the earth, of course, which is also the false prophet. Okay? The false prophet gets his power where? From the dragon. From the dragon. And then read all the things that this beast is doing. It makes fire come from heaven. Yeah, how is it doing that? How about try all the bombs that they have been throwing for the past 80 years? We just had, oh my goodness, a celebration of NATO, 75 years of NATO. And all they can show is one bombing after another. That's all NATO can show. Okay? Because that is that connection between the beast out of the earth, or the beast out of the sea, and the beast out of the earth. That's the NATO. And they both get their power from the dragon. Both of them. And that's what we are right now. We are world empire. We are beast. World empire. And this world empire of the United States was created just for the purpose of stepping in when the Holy Roman Empire was wounded. It stepped in when it was wounded in order to protect it until it's back on its feet. And yes, make no mistake, we are the false prophet. And every president is a false prophet, no matter who it is. That's why my last video showed very clearly it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Trump, Biden, same thing. They're working for the dragon. And we are the ones that will give the mark of the beast. The next president, most likely, will give the mark of the beast. That's right. Will, initiate, sign in place, whatever you want to call it, the mark of the beast. We are that beast. It's not what they think, the Antichrist or the man of sin. The man of sin of Babylon the Great is the whore. It's a woman. It's a church. It's the false church. It's a church that whores around, that worships idols. Again, look at Revelation 17. This is what we have. So that's why I keep saying we cannot bow down to any of the systems, any religious, any political system. And we have to be very careful to bow down to any of the religious systems, because they are all tied with Babylon the Great or papacy. They all tie together. Those people that are supporting Trump, these Christian leaders, who are called Christian leaders, right? They also support the Pope. It's obvious, right? It's very obvious. So this is what you need to understand. That's why we cannot follow any political system, and no matter who is going to be president in the United States, they will be the false prophet. People, I'm coming to an end. Let the Holy Spirit guide you. I hope that helped. If you have any questions, let me know.